So in this video, I'm gonna be explaining my personal opinions on the following reasons why I believe the Clippers can pull off a major surprise during the regular season and probably in my personal opinion win the championship. So reason number one, um, break two people, Terrence Mann and Paul George are bound to have a big breakout season. So first, we're gonna elaborate with Terrence Mann. Terrence Mann was always a energy guy who plays tremendous defense, and his offense is improving by a lot. And as y'all can see, he dropped 39 points against the Utah Jazz. Of course, people will try to want to discredit it, but it's still 39 points. And then next season, I just predict Terrence Mann's probably gonna be bound to be an All Star. And Paul George, look, what Paul George just did in the playoffs this year, in my personal opinion, was the beginning. So now Paul George is gonna have a chance to be the first option. And one thing that people always like don't talk about Paul George is how much of a good leader that Paul George is. Like, y'all saw what Paul George did when he was with the Pacers. He was that close to beating the big three Miami Heat with three superstars. Meanwhile, when Paul George was probably like the only star, and don't get it twisted, he had like a solid team too. He had Danny Granger, who was like the veteran, and you got um David West, who's a solid player, but there are no Dwayne Wade or Chris Bosh, but Paul George still managed to take the take the Miami Heat to Game 7. So that's one personal reason on why I think the Clippers can pull off a surprise. Because honestly, if I really think about it, y'all saw what Paul George did in the playoffs. So maybe potentially, in my personal opinion, I think Paul George can be an MVP consideration if y'all really think about it. Because y'all remember 2019, the Oklahoma City Thunders when Paul George was killing it. I predict that will be Paul George in the 2021 and 2022 season. So go overall. So the first reason is just there are a lot of people who are bound to break out. There's no simple way of truly explaining my first reason because I basically a prediction. Terrence Mann may be an All-Star consideration next season and most improved, and then Paul George for MVP consideration. So basically, gonna wrap for number two is the team culture. So so basically, we pretty much stuck to what we have, which is I'm loving it. Like Reggie Jackson, y'all saw how emotional he was. Like after when his team lost to the Phoenix Suns, he was literally in tears, literally putting 111% of his efforts, literally proved a lot of people, including me, wrong. Dude has good ISO skills and also is a really hard worker. You got, Nick Batum, who is like the ideal guy you want to have in your locker room. Like, Nick Batum is probably one of the most underrated players in the league, in my opinion, because Batum is literally like he's literally like one of those who would who would give off great vibes in a locker room, basically. So, and also of course we still pretty much we also picked up some really amazing pieces that are great defenders and who is basically hungry, in my opinion. So, so that's why I think the Clippers culture can play a huge factor on why the Clippers will potentially win the 2022 NBA championship. My apologies, because just try to imagine the 2019 Clippers with an alpha. That's what's going to happen in 2022. So third. So now I'm gonna to straight up go to the third reasoning. Probably the final reasoning is depth. The Clippers, like, if you really like look into the Clippers or watch a lot of Clippers games or pretty much like know a good amount of basketball, the Clippers' depth is beyond amazing. So so now Kawhi and Paul George is out, and also like this also goes back to the first reasoning. There are a lot of people that are bound to break out because look, like y'all see how Nick Batum broke out with the Clippers, yes, like last season. So in my opinion, I think like there's a lot of good signings the Clippers did, like Justice Winslow, a really who's a really tough, gritty defender who could who is solid in passing right now because the Miami Heat. And then another thing is his handles are pretty solid. His slashing is pretty amazing, and he's just a pretty skilled individual. And then you got Luke Kennard, who is phenomenal at shooting threes. Shot well, like 44%, I believe, that's just which is that's a really high efficiency rate if it's in terms of 3 point percentage. And then you got a bunch of young core, which is I used as this slide. I know like two of them is not on this team anymore. Oturu is not on the team. Coffee has yet to be heard, but because and then you because I'ma just dissect. I know I dissect a lot on the young core because y'all if y'all like seen my past comments or seen my past videos, y'all know how much passion do I have in the young core. You got Keon Johnson who has a 48-inch vertical, that is substantial. That's one of the most rarest things you can have in the NBA. You got Jay Scrubb, who is a really good scorer, who's like a hybrid of a J.R. Smith and a and a James Harden. And then you got B.J. Boston, who is once considered to be a top 5 pick, like in the beginning of the 2021 NBA mock draft, but now he just somehow managed to fall down to just be with us, and that's just beyond amazing. He has good dribble package and great scoring ability as well too. And Jason Preston, like I'm gonna continue to kind of like somewhat be a little bit hard on him, but I actually like Jason Preston. His floater is amazing. His passing is just really good as well too. So that's just my third reasoning. It's depth that's gonna play a good factor on how the Clippers gonna win a championship because now we pretty much got our positions filled out. So we got point guard, we got Reggie Jackson, Justice Winslow could kind of play it, Eric Bledsoe could kind of play it, and Jason Preston may eventually be able to take the spot. Just because if y'all don't know about Jason Preston, just check out his summer league highlights. It's amazing. And for shooting guard, you got Paul George, you got Luke Kennard, you got Jay Scrubb, and you got Keon Johnson, or Keon could be a wing. And for the wings, you got what? You got Morris, you got Keon, you got T Man, who's I predict is going to be an All Star, and I don't know what else to mention because like we have really good depth, or Justice Winslow because Winslow plays that position, and power forward you got Nick Batum and you got Marcus Morris, and also we got Harry Giles, who could also be a stretch four. And then for center, we got Zubac and Ibaka, which is, pretty solid. But now since we brought Harry Giles, it's a really underrated signing, I think that's gonna be pretty great for us because we're pretty much like filled out on our needs. I mean, I don't really like I don't really believe that we need to do anything pretty much. I mean, we could always make it like some trades that's not gonna cost our our core in my opinion. So I mean I'm gonna just probably this would should probably just end end this video. So be sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and feel free to like agree or disagree. So this will just finish this video, and thank you very much for showing love and support.